we are hanging out with Allison and Chris at Asymmetry Studio in Dallas. And I know that we talked briefly in our intro video, when Chris was a little bit busy with your little one, about where you're really at in the city, because saying you're in Dallas is like, it's so massive. So kind of give us an area in locale where you're at, and then kind of where you draw from the studio too for your clientele.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting because so we're in Lakewood, which is our favorite part of Dallas. It doesn't necessarily feel like big city Dallas.
It's technically East Dallas, very close to the Arboretum and White Rock Lake, kind of across on the other side of the highway from Fair Park. So it's an older area that's got some big attractions or well-known
It's real historic.
locations. Yeah.
It's really very community-centric, which is what we liked about it. Like, almost all the restaurants are mom and pop, like individually owned. There's hardly any chains. It's just like very unique, I guess, in that aspect, which I love that. We love those like one-off places and things like that. And the people in this community, they're very proud of being in Lakewood, so they like to support other Lakewood businesses. So since we've been living here for so long, because we used to commute to the other studios, so we lived here for so long, we wanted to open our studio here in our neighborhood and our community that we've, kind of been fostering just through our own personal relationships. And so that's the biggest part that we wanted to start. We wanted to open our studio here. That's the biggest reason.
So it's really like a smaller community, even though you're tucked into this massive city.
Yes, like we're 5 miles from downtown. I mean, we're right next to the skyscrapers.
Yeah.
But it's very different feeling when you're in this like kind of community area.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the space itself. Because one of the things I think is really unique to this video series specifically is that you're in a shared space. And there's a lot of different definitions for that. So if we are going to take kind of like a little virtual walkthrough, into the studio. So you're in a really cute building, first and foremost. And the building's, over 100 years old. So it's got great character, great bones, cool ceiling. It's, what did you say it was, an ice?
Ice house.
Yeah.
An ice house. Yeah. So like lots of concrete. Nice
Lots
and quiet.
Lots of
Yeah. So if we walk through the front door, that first initial entrance, that is shared. So, in our first conversation, about doing the redesign, you're like, well, we can't take over that space. And we can't make it look too portraity because we all share it. And the first grouping up front, which is a new concept for your studio, is what we would just refer to as like a closed grouping. And the images in there are they're so cool, and your style is so commercial, edgy fashion that it could double as commercial. It could it's portrait, but it fits into the space, and I don't think anybody would ever be like, well, that's just, that's a senior session, so.
Yeah, it's not like somebody in their leather jacket or crouched down in a field of blue bonnets or whatever. So, it doesn't feel, you're right, like it feels a little more fashion, or it could just be
Like you're looking at a piece of art versus somebody's portrait.
Editorial work or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a couple other prints that we just left up because they really did fit the space well. The young man with the what would you call it, an astronaut helmet on, which could definitely be a fine art piece.
And can't even see his face.
Right, and then another high school senior that is black and white, that's distant, a lot of negative space around it, and again that fits into that space really well. So you're not really taking it over, and you were very respectful of your suite mates with that. Yeah. So let's talk about the closed grouping. So I know that the woodland frames, especially the woodland walnut, are some of your favorites. So we actually use that twice in the redesign. Now sometimes, I'll try to push back on that, and I think we did discuss like maybe we want to do modern metal, maybe we want to do a gallery frame for the big gallery wall, but you ended up settling on the woodland. And tell us about your thought process on that.
So I just love that frame so much. Honestly, I remember seeing that frame material when y'all first did float wrap. I mean, floating frames. Yes. And thinking, oh, this is so pretty. I wish this was in a regular frame, and it wasn't at that time. And so then as soon as it started carrying it as a regular frame, I was like, I want to use that on everything. But I want to still show a variety, obviously, for other people and their styles. But it fit that clothes set so well. It fit the color and everything, fit the era of that. It fit the furnishings that are around it. That had to be that way. And then the other wall is such a big statement. It's going to be our biggest one that I just wanted to love it. I wanted to walk in every day and love it. And plus, I feel like when you love your samples, you can sell them better. I think you can sell images, or not images, but sell products that you love.
So let's just kind of recap some of the sizes we're going here. So that clothes grouping was a new concept, but it's a 2020, 1624, and two 8x12s. Two of them are matted, the two big ones, and the two 8x12s are not. And that was intentional just for the more commercial side of that. And the whole thing just works together. So awesome. It's really, really fun. When we were out front this morning, because we beat you guys here by a little bit, just to look in the windows and see that the color pop and the style of it is really cool. And that vignette of the clothes grouping and the radio and the chair and the plants, and everything,
It's a great
it all works really
set.
Yeah, our shared space in the front, I mean, we primarily decorated it for the most part. There's only one or two pieces that are the landlord's. And so it kind of feels like ours, which is nice. At least we get to have our own style there.
And we purposely kind of decorated it in such a way where we can still use it to photograph, because we do photograph up there a lot. And so
Every piece of furniture we buy has dual
yes,
purpose.
it has to be functional.
and it should,
Yeah.
Because you can shoot anywhere, and drag some chairs and pillows and plants around, and you can do anything. So if we keep on walking down the hallway, and then we get really to all your space. So if we're walking towards the camera room, on the right-hand side, we've got the dressing room. You've got it all laid out. You've got your fridge, you've got snacks, you've got the wardrobe for clothes, you have the clothing rack that's really cool that you built out of copper
Yeah, Chris made
tubing.
that.
Got a full-length mirror. It's very comfortable, nice soft rug. The cool mural on the wall. Fun pendant lamps. Like, it's got the vibe. It has your style built into it. So when you're looking at your images, that looks like you, and that's really important to have. So let's just talk product that's in the dressing room. So we have a humongous 30x60 metal that's gorgeous. Where was that photographed, Chris?
That was in Colorado Springs. I don't know if that was Garden of the Gods or not. It was? Okay. One of the people that we photographed said that they like to go out there and ride horses or something. So I think that's why we kind of went for a little hike out there.
We've been wanting to do some destination senior shoots. So in order to have that, we needed to have some samples to show that. So we decided to make our own little destination shoot, and we went and shot that, so that way we could potentially do that more often.
Yeah, show people that it's possible. Just to show ourselves that it was possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Prove that we could do it.
Yeah, and that 3060 has such a nice presence. It fits perfectly between when the door is open and above the clothes rack. And
I think it's the biggest we've ever seen our work.
It's pretty fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I
and the
love it.
colors are just so dynamic. So
It looks really good on the metal.
Yeah, it's a white base high gloss, and the colors just pop. Yeah. Now the other product that's in that room, we intentionally put in acrylic and frame or metal into the same space, but the metal's high, and the framed acrylics are eye level. So you can see it from the side. So at the lab, we've definitely noticed vertical collage is getting to be more and more and more popular, because have you ever heard during a sale, I just don't have any wall space?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, yes.
If I had $1.
Right.
So everybody has vertical spaces in their homes. Now that is a pair of 2020s and a 2024 in the middle. You could always size up, size down, do more, do less, whatever that. And that really in that room is not big. It's 10 by 10, but it's 12 feet tall. Yeah. And with that collage, it really brings your eye up and makes the ceiling seem higher.
Yeah, it works really well in that space.
Yeah, and also, I think it's really cool how on the wall you see the brick, because that plaster's broke out over time. And I mentioned this in the first video. It's important to respect the spaces you're decorating. We don't want to go in and make it look like just stuff everywhere and too busy. You want it to be designed and merchandised properly. So to have that vertical grouping and respect that cool brick architecture, it just fits really well. So it's very important, and I know that everybody's heard me say this before, when you're designing groupings for your space, to use one client. Primarily one session, one client. So when somebody's looking at that, they can go, oh, I see, that's a product. You're not just showing me 3 pretty pictures from 3 different sessions and creating a gallery space. Now, if this whole space was yours, and we had that whole front room to work with, we had the hallway, all that stuff, and we didn't have to worry about suite mates, I think that we would create a more gallery-esque feel in some space. But with having 2 10 by 10 rooms and the camera room, which is yours, we really need to maximize that. And the gallery room really did that for you. So let's hop across the hallway and talk about that a little bit. So the canvas grouping above your desk, give us a little history on that, because I know you guys have history with it.
So this particular style was actually my idea at the other studio. I don't know, probably 8-10 years ago, I mean, at this point. Gallery groupings weren't as popular as they are now. But I still thought they looked good. I had the idea that we could sell it. We had never sold anything like that at the other studio. And I made this specific grouping, which fits into a nice box. I love the feeling of that.
It lets your shoulders relax because it all lines up.
But they're all different sizes. Like there's a 10 by 20 in it because that is an unexpected size that people don't see every day. They can't, don't go into Michael's and pick up a 10 by 20 frame. Generally, it's one image. So I made that grouping. We printed it, or the first person I showed it to, they go, yes, I want it just like that. And I made it digitally and just showed it to them. And they're like, we love it. We don't want to change any of the poses. We don't want to change any of the sizes. We'll buy it just like that. So that talked my boss into the fact that, okay, we can make a sample of this. This is saleable. And then we sold so many of that specific style. People like that there's a couple big ones and a couple small ones in that 10 by 20 shape. So
we even had a brochure of like 10 different layouts, that they could look through, and that one almost hands down every single time. That was the one everybody went towards.
It's a grouping of 5, so it gives them a little bit more variety than you see a lot of 4s, 3s, and 4s, and so it's a good one.
So I don't know what it was, but that one for some reason.
Home run.
Everybody went to that one.
And this is absolutely going to be a home run.
That's what we're hoping.
Yeah, the subject, the color, the poses, the style, the size of it. And price point is really good. Like that is going to be one that I think you sell a lot of. Plus, you have the confidence with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think
knowing
will
the
help.
history.
Yeah, you have the history. You've got the story to go with it. And I think that that's important, and you were like, we did this the other studio, this is what I'd like to do. And we actually started with a scaled down version of it. And then you guys were like, why would we want to do that? Let's do the big one, because you can always go down, it's hard to go up. And it fits that space perfectly. Yeah. So let's, I didn't interrupt you. Were you going to go
I was just
somewhere?
going to say, and I can't take any credit for the photography. You say us, but that was all Chris. Those are Chris's beautiful images.
She designed the...
I can design the grouping, but...
So that's why we work well together.
Yeah, and we love that session. She appears in the White House booth quite a bit at conferences. Yeah. So let's go across the room. We'll leave the gallery wall for last. So let's talk about the 3040 that's up on the wall.
So that was all Matt. He saw the image that we had, and I would have never actually thought of putting a big close-up, or a close-up that big. And when you saw it in a different grouping, you're like, that image would look fantastic, that big. And I was like, is it gonna be too big? It's bigger than her real face, but it looks amazing.
Yeah, it does. It looks great. The impact of that image is outstanding. And that is printed on fine art Baryta coated paper. So the contrast and the detail and everything are really, really good. And then it has the Grand Gallery black frame on it. So like we were talking about in the video before, it's always important to have that standalone portrait still, because you're going to have people that don't gravitate towards the groupings, that want to have one large portrait. It's a great size, 30-40, it fits in that space. It's not overpowering at all. And you always want to have big stuff up, because people might want to scale back, you know, and if they see the 30-40 and they want to drop to a 24-36, that's great. That's absolutely fine, you know, that you're sending 24-36s out. But I love that. It's clean. It has a ton of impact. We're going to get the lights all aimed in there. So when you're looking in the room, you know, she just pops right off the wall. The gallery wall. So this is 100% you guys. And we went back and forth and talked about designs and styles. And I know that the gallery concept for photographers, for sales, can be difficult. It can be a tough sell, and it takes time to get everything done. So you guys have had success with selling gallery walls. So what are your tips and tricks on that for people who are watching along?
So if it is going to span over multiple kids, I mean, we've done a lot where we photograph the kids in one session, and that makes it so much easier.
Right. You can just build it all at once.
Right. Do it all at once, and it doesn't matter if they're all different ages. You know, they don't. We've even had some people that'll do it all at once, and then they'll replace the older
throughout the
pictures
years,
with the new senior picture. And we've done that where we're like, okay, you know, it's this kid's senior year. Now they're going to take out the 8th grade photo and put their senior portrait. You know,
And the kids are like, thank God.
yes. Ah, the wonder if I have braces on. Yes. Like, Mom, please. So those are a little bit easier because you can do it all at once. And we've done more of those than the other. But I still feel like that people love the idea of a gallery wall over time. And so I wanted to find a way to show that. And I was like, there is no reason that we can't sell that. It's just going to take, like you said, a little bit more finessing. I did sell one just the other day, the oldest, and so we know that we're going to have to wait on his younger sister. And we tried to design the grouping in a way that we knew what the end was going to look like. We showed them that with placeholders. And then we knew what it looked like by itself. So they can still go ahead and hang it up. They can still enjoy it in 2 years' time, not just keep it in a closet and wait. So I think it takes a little more work because you have to show almost 2 different groupings. But I think showing them a way that they can see it now, enjoy it now, and then add to it. And it doesn't look like 2 separate things next to each other, like they can flow together.
Yeah, that wall looks phenomenal. And the cool thing about it is it still represents your brand and your style. It's fun to look at. There's different sizes in there. It fits together in a really unique way. We left space for the lamp and then the negative space in the top right-hand corner. Like, it was really fun to hang. It did make me scratch my head a little bit this morning. We intentionally left it for this morning so we were all fresh to do.
Yes, it's a lot of pieces.
Yeah, so it's 10 pieces altogether. And it's roughly 72 by 70, basically, just so you can kind of put that into perspective. And again, the room is not big. And that's a big grouping in there, you know, but it doesn't overpower because it's got room to breathe. You know, it's got 3 inches between verticals and horizontals. It lives nicely in the space, you know, and that's in a 10 by 10 room, we have that big grouping. We've got a 30-40, we have a group of 5, plus the desk and some smaller pieces there too. So, I mean, it's gonna be fun to have your report on how that room functions. It's fun to walk by now.
Yeah. It's gonna be nice to show people instead of virtually showing them.
Yeah, exactly. And then the addition of the dark wall, I think really helped.
I do too. That was a last minute thing.
Yeah.
We the walls are all kind of a light gray, very neutral color. And I put it in studio. It looked fine, but then I was like, oh, what if we painted this? And Chris got up here late one night and knocked it out because I was like, we only have a few days. You think we can get painted in time?
Right. Yeah, you guys function well at night.
Yeah.
That's when the kids are asleep.
Yeah.
It's out of necessity. Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about other product stuff because you guys have some amazing albums. I keep looking back at this and you were saying before that you hauled in 100 pounds of sand into the studio and you really wanted to look like it was from the 60s and the lighting looks perfect. I mean, it looks like it's done outside. So obviously albums are a big part of your product line. You're bringing in acrylic blocks, which you hadn't had before. You've got an engraved one here next to us. And then let's talk about this little one here. So this was by design for you, but a little bit more accidental with another redesign that we did. So our dear friend Erica at the Pod out in Los Angeles, when we first started to do photo prints and fine art prints in float frames. She wanted to see what they look like, so they ordered some 8x10s, just so they'd have, kind of the idea of what it was all going to look like. And she put those out in the studio, and she started selling them like hotcakes, these little 8x10 float frame pieces. Now, when we were talking about the gallery wrap grouping above the desk, we kind of talked about putting float frames in there, but you guys decided to just keep that exactly how you had done it before. But then in discussing, I'm like, you know what? Let's just put one 8x10 in with the float frame, because there's zero risk to offering float frames, because all you have to do is just check the box. And these are fun. They sit up on their own. Like, we have it on an easel here, but it'll sit on its own, and they're great for gift portraits, and they're a finished portrait. Because I think that you said you don't do a lot of 8x10s, 5x7s.
Yeah, we just don't have a lot of interest in printing a lot of those 8x10s and 5x7s. To us, it doesn't feel special enough.
Yeah.
It's PTSD from the 11. No. Well, that too, yes, because we did have to, every single image that we took in a session, we had to do an 8x10, 5x7s, and wallets of all 5 of those poses, and then an 11x14, and then we had to take it all out in a stack and then set it on an easel and go like, we had like a magic word we had to say. Like, we had to say it when we put it down and showed it to them.
Yeah.
And we had to do it for every person, whether they bought it or not. But no, I was saying about at the other studio where we had to like mount and texture and all that stuff. Like, we actually did our own mounting and texturing, and it's like.
And then like we thought about only offering our 8x10s if they're matted, something like, it just makes it feel bigger, something that they can't just go print at Walgreens, you know?
Yeah, and I think with that becoming more popular, it's just, I don't know, at least for us, it just felt like it was a harder sell to be
And
like,
hold the value.
yeah, because it's like, we know you can go print, you are probably going to go print these by yourself at Walgreens, and we'll just let you learn that lesson on your own.
Right.
But we don't need to teach you that. We'll just let you figure it out.
We'd rather sell something that's a little different.
A lot of our packages have digital included in with the higher packages, so we know that that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's a very industry standard, to have a hybrid model, and that's good. You still have a strong product basis, but a lot of people want the files for social media and stuff like that. But with this, going back to what we were talking about, this is an awesome little product.
Yeah, this adds so much to it that it's more of, it's like a keepsake type of piece. It's something that's sentimental or has value and weight. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just a, printout, basically.
Right. Yeah, and this is a premium gallery wrap, and it has the matte laminate, which I'm a big fan of, and this is the brush metal brass frame on there, and that.
Yeah, I picked the matte laminate because I want it to look different than the canvases on the walls. So that way people can see options. And I also fit this image. Yeah. I specifically wanted an image that felt a little more organic and would go with the softer finish, because the ones on the wall, they needed that pop. They needed that like semi-gloss because they're bright and graphic.
Yeah, and they're beautiful. Yeah, we love it. So it goes without saying, like, we just appreciate you two so much. It's been so fun to hang out with you the last few days here. Looking back at the experience, and I know that you guys have been putting a ton of hours getting this ready, if you were going to give advice or tips to somebody that's watching this video and they're like, ooh, I would really like to do that, now that you're on the back of it, what's your advice to somebody that's wanting to
start setting aside your images now, like every single session. Pull a couple of your favorite images, because that was probably the most time consuming as it was, is just going back through a couple years of our catalog, going, it doesn't have to be just this year. A few years back would still be modern and fresh enough, but so many sessions to look through, because it's not just the ones people order. They don't always order the best ones.
Right, exactly.
So we were looking through every image, unordered, ordered images, and it's just so time consuming that we just need to make it somehow in our workflow where every session we pull a handful of our favorites and set them aside. So
just keep a folder on the server and just drop them in there.
Yes. It's hard to make yourself do that, because sometimes you're just like, I gotta get this done so I can go do something else. And I got this to do and that to do. I'm just getting it wrapped up and moving. We need to make it mandatory, I think.
Yeah. Well, that would be easy to do. To add, just add it to your plate, Chris. It should be no problem.
More work.
What do you think as far as advice for somebody doing this?
I was just going to say for me personally, I think it's, I look at the act of like printing samples and, that to me, it's not always at the forefront of my mind. I always think there's something else that's probably takes precedence and should probably take care of that first. But I think just even yesterday, because right after we were done yesterday, I came back up here because I had a consultation with a client over Zoom. I realized how important it is to have displays, because even if they're not there in person, I realize that they can see the wall behind me as I'm doing, talking to them. And I know that, just even before we had the gallery up on the wall, that I would always have a stack of albums on the desk next to me. And so specifically for the person I was talking to yesterday, this album was the perfect album to show them, because we were talking about doing outfits from different decades. And so it was great to be able to pick that up and show them in a way that wasn't just screen sharing or a Pinterest board, but them getting that early first look at, oh, what is that book thing? Because then they're going to come in, and we talked about that kind of passive selling where you're not really selling, and they've already seen it once, and now they're going to see it a second time, and then they're going to see it a third time. When they come back to view their portraits, I think I'm kind of getting to the point where I can see that, having up-to-date samples and go bigger than you really think you probably should, because once you get it up on the wall, I feel like everything shrinks. It sounds big, but you put it on the wall and it all of a sudden becomes smaller. We probably should have gone bigger on the Colorado image. It's like with TVs. Just go. Just go with the biggest size.
I think also that it's worth the investment too, because there was so many times where I'm like, well, let's just reuse this other frame that was a remake or something. Because
we've had samples that are like 10 to 12 years old.
Yeah, but then when you get the new stuff that's intentionally designed and
to work
picked out,
with your space, to work with the
it
image.
makes such a difference. It really does.
So I guess you're right. Maybe we need to. I guess we need to set aside images.
I mean, it looks more expensive. I feel like.
Oh yeah, I think when you take the time to design it, I think it's better than just going, oh, I like this image, let me just throw this in here. But when it's put together with the purpose, I think the impact is definitely there.
Yeah. And that's a really good way to wrap this up. I think that the impact of the space now is far greater than it was
absolutely,
48 hours ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Sure. Yeah. But we appreciate you guys letting us hang out with you and working your butts off to get ready for us.
Well, and you guys worked really hard for your team.
Yes.
So I think we're even.
We're happy to have you guys help us hang all these images.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a huge deal.
Yeah, we love doing it. So awesome. Well, you guys do phenomenal work. Thank you for having us again. We hope you've enjoyed the series, and definitely leave us our comments. And if this has inspired you and you're watching this and you would like to find out more about the redesigns from WHCC, definitely leave us a note. Reach out to customer service. We'd love to talk to you. So enjoy this and have a great day. We'll be back to talk to you soon.
And here's where we just do banter back and forth because the credits are rolling.
Yeah, right?
Like, what are they talking about?